Today, we're going to rack and bottle the Dragon's Breath Mead. Hi, I'm Brian.
I'm Derica, and you're watching City Steading Brews. Today is the end, maybe, of Dragon's Breath Mead.
Almost the end. It's the end-ish, the end-like, if you will. What we have here, though, is Dragon's Breath Mead. We started this on December 4th, and yes, I am reading from a note because there's no way I would remember all this. We started this on December 4th, 2019. Today is February 12th, 2020, by the way. It has 2 jalapenos, Lalvin 71B, yeast, 48 ounces of a mix of blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, and strawberries. Costco frozen berries. I mean, good stuff. And before anybody says good stuff, bad stuff, frozen berries like that, you're probably better off buying them frozen than picking them yourself, because by the time they're frozen and all that, they are probably still fresher than what you could have picked yourself. Figure that one out, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway, it's also got wildflower honey in it, 3.5 pounds of honey in it, in a 1-gallon batch. Now remember, we did this in the 2-gallon bucket with all that fruit, so that when we racked it, we ended up with 1 gallon. Math, it's a wonderful thing. We also added some black tea to this. It started with a 1.104 OG, and it went down to 1.000. If you recall, when we tasted it last, it was just a little bit too, capsicumel-y, a little too peppery, and a little too dry. Because to me, capsicumel, that hot, needs some sweet to balance it out, or else it just tastes hot, and that's not really what we like. So, we added 12 ounces, or 3/4 of a pound, or, let me figure that out. It'll be here, how many grams of honey we added to bring it back to a 1.030 gravity. So what are we going to do now, today? We're going to rack it, because if you look, there's a ton of sediment at the bottom. That just stuff that fell out of suspension. I can see that it's much clearer. It's still a very, very dark brew, but I can see that it's much clearer. So we want to get it off of that. We're going to put it into this jar. We're going to taste it. After we taste it, we're going to determine, does this need more back sweetening, and did it ferment further? That's the important thing. If it didn't ferment, I have no problem adding more honey to this to make it a little sweeter. The best capsicumel I ever made, just so you know, the very best one, was like 1060 at finish. It was very sweet, but it had that hot, sweet thing going on. Oh, it was awesome.
And the second best thing he made that was a capsicumel was an accident.
Yeah, it was. And that might be a video. We might actually have to make that video. But anyway, so what I want to do first is we're going to rack first, then take the reading.
Okay,
So,
I was just making room.
So we need something of elevation.
Oh, elevation.
We're just going to do this, down and dirty.
Alrighty.
In order for a siphon to work, you need elevation difference between the two things. So we are keeping the mead here, and I have the target jar here. Very simple. Put that in there. Put this in here. I tend to go about halfway down and then just start giving it. Can you just make sure that stays in there? Yeah.
Yep.
Just give it a couple of quick pumps until it fills with liquid. If you have a newer auto siphon or a better seal than ours tends to have, longer strokes work really well, and you only need like 1 or 2 to get it going. This is a pretty boring process, so we're not going to show you the whole thing. See you in a few. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do now that we've racked it is take a reading. And for that, I'm using graduated cylinder, hydrometer, and a turkey baster. I could use a wine thief, but we just, usually have the turkey baster handy, so that's what I'm going to do. Right off the bat, one thing that I notice is the color. It's much clearer than it was before, but it still has like a nice red color to it. It's kind of cool looking.
I would like to make a quick comment about our turkey baster. This turkey baster we only use for brewing. It's kept in a separate area, and we do sanitize it each time before and after use. You don't want to use a turkey baster that you use for cooking because it can absorb some oils into the plastic, and that is bad for brews.
Okay, it has not re-fermented. It's at 1030, 1.030, so we know that we are safe if we need to back sweeten a bit more. So let me take this out of here. If you notice, because of all that sediment, we only ended up with like 3/4, maybe a little bit more than 3/4 of a gallon of brew. But you know what? That is part of doing business with making meads and home brews. You are going to lose some. we lose a little bit more percentage-wise because of using small batch. We do the 1 gallon. It's much easier to show you on camera. If you've seen some of our somewhat recent videos with the 5-gallon bucket in there, you know, I'm like peeking around it because you can't see me. That's part of why we do 1 gallon brews. Plus, we like to have a variety. You know, we'll get 3 bottles out of this, and one of them will get drank soon. One will get drank in like 3 or 4 months. One will get forgotten about, and in 5 years we'll go, hey, look at that, we have that. You know, that kind of thing.
I can smell this from here, so I think Dragon's Breath is living up to its name.
This is definitely morning after breath type of thing. I mean, it smells strong. That color is beautiful, though. It's got this lovely red. It's clear. That is not cloudy at all.
Yeah.
For something that was started on December 4th, being February 12th, that's only like 2 months and a week. This is young mead.
So we get this question a lot, and I'm just going to clarify that, because we're talking about clarity right now. And all that you've seen us show you in
everything
videos
that you've seen
is exactly
what
we've done. We didn't add any other things.
Except for one thing. I shook the original fermenter when we got it. That's it. And I didn't think a video of me going was a good idea. So other than that, you've seen everything we've done. We didn't add anything. We didn't, you know, there's no other additives. There's no other ingredients. There's nothing added to this. Anytime that lid was opened, you saw it. That's it. Okay, I want to make that very clear. That's true in all of our videos. I do not open the lids unless you see it. All right, I might swirl them and shake them, but I don't open them. On the smell, all I really get is jalapeno, which is kind of disappointing. No, I get a tiny bit of fruit, a little bit of honey, but not too much. It's jalapeno. Not a horrible thing.
It's definitely jalapeno.
Yeah, it comes across jalapeno.
But if I breathe in with my mouth open a little bit, I do get the berry sense in there too.
I think real hard I can smell berry.
You can tell that there's berry in there besides the jalapeno.
Give it a taste.
But it's definitely jalapeno.
I'm going to let her taste this first, because she's probably going to like it less than I do. Wow.
Taste-wise, it's
a lot more berry.
It's a lot more berry.
It's not as sweet as I want.
But it's close.
It needs to be sweet.
It's definitely not dry.
No, it's not dry.
But
this is
to balance out the heat and the
it needs
punch
a little bit more
of the
sweetness.
jalapeno, I think a little bit more sweetness would help this.
Yeah. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to put this on the scale, and I'm going to add, I would say, 1/2 pound of honey to this. That'll add, it's 35 points for a full pound in a gallon, so that would be like 17.5. This isn't even a full gallon, so it's going to add like 20 more points, making this something like a 1050. And then we're going to bottle it. We're not going to reset this on under the desk. We're going to bottle it because I think it'll be ready to go. We might take another little taste of it. I'm not going to worry about a reading or anything like that, but we are going to put this in bottles and it'll be ready to go. All right, so like I said, we have this on the scale. I'm just going to add 1/2 pound. I'd love to do more, but I think any more is just going to be too much. And I have to be careful because I do have to mix this thoroughly, so I have to be very careful. Okay, so we've added our 1/2 pound of honey, and it's sitting nicely at the bottom of our mead. And I have to mix this up. This is where things can get a little bit tricky. And if you're a new mead maker, this is where you could make a mistake and not even realize you just completely ruined your mead, okay? I don't want to scare anyone with this. However, this does need to get mixed up, and I have to do it so that I don't introduce more oxygen. But one thing we have not done is degas, which means there's still CO2 in suspension in this mead. That has to come out before we bottle, or else it'll be carbonated, which could be interesting, but it's old gas. It's not going to taste real good. So we want to get it out of there. So I'm going to do 2 things at once. I'm going to degas and mix at the same time. And I'm just going to do very simple motions. Notice I'm not really breaking the surface much. And this is mostly degassed on its own, so I have to be very, very careful. As far as degassing goes, let me talk about that for a minute. A lot of people seem to think that you can just leave it gassed and that makes it carbonated. Well, yeah, it does. Here's the problem. That gas has been sitting in there for a long time, weeks, months, you know. It's picked up some funk. It's just not the type of gases that flavors that you want added to your mead or your wine or whatever. So you definitely want to degas and actually carbonate. And that's the trick, is It's hard to make a sweet carbonated beverage, so I usually don't. I usually go with still. The trick to carbonating is carbonation actually tricks your brain into thinking it's sweeter than it is. Think champagne. Champagne is super dry. I mean, it's dry, okay? But it tastes a little sweet because it has carbonation. So it's all about tricking the brain. Why not just do it still and keep it sweet? That's how I see it. So that's where we're at with this. I'm trying to just mix that honey through because if I don't, some bottles will have a lot of honey, some will have very little. It'll be inconsistent. So I'm trying to mix it through.
So since we do not see gas bubbles rising up and breaking the surface, we know, as Brian said, that it's already naturally degassed. So that's why Brian is being extra careful not to slosh it around because he doesn't want to oxygenate the brew. Oxygenating your brew after it's fermented could lead to an acetobacter infection, which would turn your alcohol to vinegar. That's not our aim, so we're trying to avoid that.
Something about acetobacters too. They are actually present already. But adding oxygen in the presence of alcohol is what activates them and makes them start turning that alcohol into vinegar. We don't want that. Shockingly, looks like I actually mixed this through. I don't see any residual honey in there, so this can go back into the sanitizer. And now, just because I'm going to take a quick little sample. I just poured a little sample off just to get a taste, and it's going to be a little cloudy. This will clear up in time, and we technically shocked it because we added some honey to it. So it's not going to be exactly what it'll be in a month or 2 months or even a few weeks or days. But it's just to give an idea on the sweetness level. So much better. It feels thicker too. It just feels like there's more to it than what we had before. Much, much better. This is going to be a lovely final product. When that melds together and becomes the finished, it's going to be so good. Okay, so now we're just going to bottle. And the easiest way to bottle is you raise this up and you have your bottle at a lower level. But you know what? Bottles slide all over the place. So you know what I do? I put them in my lap. It's really, really simple. So we're just going to get a couple bottles out. And I'm going to use what's called a bottling wand, okay? It's this. It has a little spring-loaded thing at the end here. And what that does is when you push down, it flows. When you lift up, it stops. So it's really, really easy. And I'm just going to jam it on the tubing, only about maybe up about a ½ inch or so. Not too far. Because otherwise you can't get it back off. But you don't want to have it on so little that it pops off in the middle of bottling. Trust me. Take it from my experience. Learn from my mistakes. Yeah, just about that much is all we really need. We are using Aldi lemonade bottles. I don't even know if they still have these anymore. We bought so many. I think we bought out their stock. A lot of people bought them too. Now, these are great because they are a swing top bottle, which means we have the little stopper at the top there. You just do that and they're sealed. They're a wine bottle size. And you know what? They come with free lemonade. They were like $1.80 when we bought these. We bought like 40 of them. I just love them. I think they're fantastic bottles for bottling with. Put the bottling wand in the bottle, put the other end of the siphon in there, and I put the bottle in my lap. And now why do I do that? Because this way I can keep a bottle handy to move them over very quickly when this gets full. Now, when do I pull it out? When it's up to about that part of the neck of the bottle. Okay? So it's very quick.
Because the wand itself will displace some of the liquid and you want it to be full enough that it takes up enough headroom.
You want it to stop and be to about this part of the bottle, okay? So I generally pull it when it's about here, really, I'll be honest. So anyway, I keep 2 bottles in my lap on purpose.
Are you ready?
No. I also know that this is actually a 1 liter, not a 750. So that should do all of them. But we do have an extra bottle ready just in case. Now, to get this started, you have to push down on that spring load or else it'll never work and you'll just introduce oxygen into your brew. Now, you may be wondering, if you're bottling, why did you rack it first? Ha! Here's why. There's no sediment in the bottom here. This is clear liquid, ready to go. So we can put that all the way to the bottom and we can siphon with impunity without getting any sediment.
Also, because we did add more honey to this, we definitely wanted to rack it before adding more honey.
Yeah, because then you'd be mixing sediment and we'd have to let it sit for a while again. And more children's worth. All right, I'm ready.
Okay.
Do it.
Engage.
Make it so. By the way, since I have all of your attention, I would really like for all of you that watch Picard to tell CBS to put it out quicker because waiting a week in between shows is so 1985. Thank you.
We finished watching The Magicians. We finished watching Discovery. All we have left now is to wait for Picard, and it's just not working.
We have to wait for Discovery now, too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you can't actually see this. Well, not really, because, it's kind of a picture of my crotch. Not really good television. Now, if you get there and you realize, I could have put a little bit more in, you could just take that little wand and kind of push to the side, as long as you're not higher than the level of your liquid. That's the other problem, is I can't be higher. And I can just push it to the side a little bit and get a little more in there. I like it to be nice and full. No point in wasting. That's like in a mouthful or two. And then I'll take the wand, stick it in the next one. Before I even push on it, take that bottle out. Then I'll put this bottle in its place. And then I get pushy. Just like that. Now, if you wouldn't mind, please flip the lid and close that guy up.
So I will be labeling these in our traditional masking tape labeling system.
Hey, it works. If this was going to be a gift or something, we would totally use brand new bottles, wax the corks, make a label, the whole
We have labels. I have because we're photographers in real life, I have a multitude of image editing software on my computer. I would make or find
you would label the F out of that.
A dragon and
We've done
fire and words and dates and ABV ratings.
Dates. So now we're on the big boy here.
Do you want me to be tilty?
Yeah. The idea here is we don't want to waste any. So like when there's just a little bit at the bottom, we tend to do the tilt so that it gets a little bit more out of it. And if there's a little bit left, so we put it in a glass and we drink it. It's okay. This is a really nice color. This is beautiful. This is a really nice looking Capsicumel. I'm very, very pleased. And after the addition of the extra honey, we kind of glossed over it. It came out lovely. This is actually really, really nice. We might age some of this.
I believe it will take an adventure to Ben and Savvy's house for D&D some night, because I think Ben would enjoy this immensely.
Yeah. It's always best to have help when you're bottling. It's difficult to do all this with one set of hands. I've done it. It's not necessarily fun. If you haven't figured it out, the goal is to get as much into the bottles and not on you as possible. This might be a half bottle. If you end up with a half bottle, what you want to do is put that in your fridge if you're going to keep it refrigerated and drink it within a few days. You don't want to let it sit too long because that is air at the top of that bottle. And the more air that's in your brew, the more likely you are to get acetobacters to activate. See that little bit that's left here?
Waste not, want not.
I just wanted to do that on purpose to show you just how little we're talking about that could be potentially not siphoned up. A lot of people seem to want to reinvent the wheel when it comes to siphoning. They want to use everything but a siphon. They want to use coffee filters and all these seriously expensive filters. I've heard of car parts wanting to be used to do things and vacuum pumps and all this crazy stuff. A siphon, it's like $12. I mean, it's not a big deal. You saw it in action. It works really quickly and efficiently. It does the job. Sometimes we use the same thing for a long time because it just works. Will we someday potentially, possibly, perhaps come up with a better way to siphon off our mead? Sure. But until that day comes, I'm good with using an auto siphon. But I think that's about all we got for today, guys. So as always, thanks for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.